Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Tech Day 2020. The title of this session is Proctorio and Canvas Q&A. I want to begin by mentioning that this session is being recorded. At the end of this session, please fill out the prompted survey to be placed in an opportunity drawing to win a CSUF Titans neck gaiter. And during this session, please use the Q&A feature to submit questions. We will be answering those questions during the presentation, but to keep it organized, we want to make sure they're all in the Q&A so we don't miss anything. So please put them in the Q&A, and you can start doing that now as I'm still talking. That's fine. I would now like to introduce our two speakers. Josh Dyer is a Partner Success Manager with Proctorio, and Kristin Roberts is a Canvas Learning Consultant with InStructure Canvas. Welcome.
Thanks, Lori.
Yeah, happy to be here.
We'll give it a moment to ask some questions, but if we don't have any right away, I do have some features inside Canvas that I'm more than happy to share too.
Oh, absolutely. Why don't we go ahead and start with that? Because
Perfect.
I know it takes a couple minutes for people to type.
Yes. Awesome. So I'll share my screen. All right. And one thing that you may or may not have noticed in Canvas, it's a newer feature. When you're in your Canvas course, on the right-hand side, you have this feature called New Analytics. This New Analytics gives you tons of data points inside your course, specifically with your students. So if you click on that New Analytics, you're going to get a field where it has your average course grade, and average grade for each assignment, quiz, discussion that you have graded. I'm going to switch to a different course just so you can see. And this is a fake course, but if I go into my New Analytics piece here, it will have a little bit of different data points. So you could see that my average grade for this quiz right here was that 75%. So I'm able to see those data points at a view. If I click on this tab right here, I can click a specific student and see their data points compared to the rest of the class. So if I'm having any meetings with a student, this is a great thing to bring up and talk with them about. And then look into this area. One thing that's really neat is you have this option to message students who. So if I pull up that message students who, I can create a score range. So any of my students who have a 0 to, let's say, 50%, it will automatically bring up my students. And I have 3 students that have that 0 to 50%, and I could send them BCC'd messages to each student. So I can maybe set up a meeting with them or just let them know that maybe we need to get our work turned in. And that's our course grade. You also have that for weekly online activity. So average participations and average page views. Also, you could see your specific students in their grades, and a new reporting feature where you can see missing assignments, late assignments, excused assignments, class roster, and course activities. And you could run those reports and they come into a CSV file. And if you are questioning, maybe I don't know what this looks like, you can always click on this little eye with the circle right next to it. And then it will come up with an example of what it looks like and the question or the definition of what it is. So that is that course New Analytics. There's definitely some deeper places in here that we could go into. I do see we have a couple of questions, so I'll turn to that questions feed and see if we have any that we can answer.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like we have one from James who says, I had a question about timed quizzes. If we have a student who needed to step away from the computer before completing the exam, is there a way to pause the clock for them? I can grant them another opportunity to take the quiz exam, but I couldn't find a way to simply pause the clock for them until they started again. Example, students who are parenting their own child while trying to complete their own education.
James, that's a great question. Unfortunately, on classic quizzes, there's no place where you can stop and pause the exam for those students. If you're using new quizzes, you can give that student unlimited time specifically for that that one test if you would like them to. Unfortunately, for the classic quizzes, that time is just kind of going to go until when they press begin, but no pause time. If you're using new quizzes, and if you haven't seen that yet, it's a great feature. I'll go into just an example really quickly. New quizzes is a newer test feature inside of Canvas. It looks a lot different, but it has the same question types, but with more question types as well, like categorization, hotspot, and ordering. In this question area, you have this moderate button up top here, where you can moderate a specific student's question or test. So if I have Jim's right here, I can click moderate, and I can adjust the time for him. So I could give him unlimited time for this quiz to go back in and complete it. If you are wanting to maybe change to this type of quizzes from classic quizzes, what you can do is in your quizzes area where you see those like rocket ships that are outlined, you can click these 3 dots and you can choose this migrate button, and that migrate button will automatically turn that classic quiz into a new quiz where you do have a little bit more options in that moderate area of the quiz.
All right, thank you. Yeah. So the next question is about Proctorio. As a department chair, how may I best reassure students about their security and privacy concerns? What specifically should I write when responding to their emailed concerns?
Hi, yeah, I'd be happy to address this question. It's kind of a hot topic right now. So, we get this question a lot. And, one of the things we're trying to do as a company is make sort of these things really available to students. So we've made a lot of redesigns through our website. So specifically, we have a proctorio.com/about/privacy is really geared specifically for addressing any kind of student privacy concerns. So we really try to spell out the language, focused towards test takers. And so I think making that available to students sort of, maybe in the syllabus before they start to take the first exam is a great way to address those questions, because a lot of them come from just a misconception of how the product actually works. We definitely seem like Big Brother in your living room watching you take your exam, but really when you understand what's actually happening is that we're using software and machine learning to do that sort of at a software level. So that's treating everyone sort of uniformly and independently, and there's nobody on the other end that could, witness any of those videos or look at any of those metrics. It's only available to instructors. So I think having that conversation with students early and often sending them to our privacy page on the website where we sort of deal with a lot of those concerns, and hopefully we can address some of those miscommunications and misconceptions about how the product works, because it's definitely not lost on us that we seem like, Big Brother watching them in their living room take their exam. And I think just a little clarification around that goes a long way.
All right, thank you very much. Berhana, did you want to add to that?
Sure. From IT perspective, when we received, several requests for a proctoring solution, we evaluated, different proctoring solutions, and evaluating security was one of the requirements we had to go through before selecting a product. And Proctorio, along with Respondents and ProctorU, are the 3 proctoring solutions that are actually agreed to by the CSU Chancellor's Office. So the security requirements were vetted by the Chancellor's Office as well as the CSU Fullerton Information Technology team. So there are, like Josh indicated, proctorio.com/privacy has a lot of, information about the security compliance for the product.
Well, thank you. All right, we did have a question that popped up in the chat, and it says, would you explain how the curve feature works in the gradebook?
Yes, so in Canvas Gradebook, let me jump into my course and I'll share. So if I go into the gradebook and click on any specific assignment next to here, so let me just give somebody a good percentage on this one. So let me give her a 70 here. If I click these 3 dots next to an assignment or any quiz in my gradebook, it's going to ask me to curve. Oh, it's not asking me for this one's probably because it's closed. Let me go into this course right here. So it's going to give me the option to curve some grades. So I can go into this option right here and choose curve grades. I don't know if this one will work. Let me put a 85. When it curves grades, it's going to enter the average grade for the curve. So parts of a plant, the chart shows the best attempt at curving grades based on the student's scores. So it looks into all of the student scores and it determines that the average score, that 2.4 out of 4 total, and that's going to curve it from there. So it does this little algorithm inside of Canvas. So I can assign zeros to unsubmitted students, but based on all of the scores in here, that is the average score, and it will curve it to that score. So if I choose curve grades, it's going to update that, and I'm showing it as percentage, but if I enter it as points. So it went in as points, but that's not correct. So let me try that again. Something is not right with this one. If it's at the max, it will not curve grades, but it should be working that it automatically applies that points that needs to be added compared to all of the other scores within that algorithm. Mine's not working for some reason. I have to go definitely check on that, but it should add those point values comparing all of the scores and what's fair to curve those grades up. So it will curve it depending on the average of the course grades and add those points into it. But let me check on mine, and I definitely can find in some resources that would be really beneficial when it comes to curving those grades in there.
All right, thank you. All right, so our next question is, we have, what are some accessibility features in Proctorio to accommodate students with disabilities?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do have, again, some information on our website that, proctorio.com/accessibility that details out, sort of some of the details around accessibility, but really kind of our role in accessibility, the way we think about it is sort of to get out of the way of the tools that the students need to use and sort of just allow them to work. And so it's something we're constantly working with to make sure that those tools are working as expected when students are taking, exams with Proctorio. And they're all sort of unique in how they work. So there are certain, accessibility tools that would require, let's say we have a force full screen option, right? And so some of the tools might require a student to interact with, a separate application if that's how that tool works. Well, that can absolutely be done with Proctorio. There might be some adjustments to the settings just to make sure that tool works appropriately for that student. But really sort of, we want to make sure we're certified. We have our, WCAG 2.0 and all those things for accessibility. So we've gone through all the things that we can do, and it's a constant, process of making sure the product works as appropriately. And allowing for the certain accessibility, with time limits and things like that, allowing those things that you can do within Canvas itself work appropriately with, Proctorio too. So we try to address a lot of that on our website, and then also in, sort of our approach to the tool. And when we find things that there might be conflicts with, then that's what our team hops in and make sure we try to fix those to allow all the appropriate accessibility tools to work. And then the flip side of that too is, the way that you use the tool is totally customizable. So instructors sort of have they have the ability to sort of pick and choose which settings, which behavior analytics they want to look at or not look at. Proctorio is not really making a sort of decision about anything that's going on from a behavior perspective. We're just looking for the things that instructors have told us to look for, and then giving that full discretion for instructors to make any kind of determinations there.
All right, thank you. And we did have a couple of concerns in the Q&A about peer-reviewed studies that state that using Proctorio causes harm to students?
Yeah, I mean, that's a difficult question. I'm not familiar with this study, so I don't know if I could, completely address what was, done or said in this study or this particular article, to be quite frankly. So I don't know if I could give an appropriate answer to that. We think about sort of student experience a great deal at our company, and we do everything we can to sort of empower instructors to use the tool that makes sense for them. There are reasons for proctoring in general on tests, and so we just try to play our part and really sort of empowering instructors to sort of make the selections that are appropriate for the exam. And we do a lot of redesigns on our product itself to try and be more transparent with students and let them know exactly what information is being collected and all those things to sort of drive down what sort of testing anxiety that these things might cause. It's a bit of a weird world we're in. Like a completely online world is new, and so Proctorio is trying to play a role in that, but I completely understand that there are, concerns on the student side, and we do our best to address those.
I can add to that. I just want to make sure it's clear that the Proctorio tool that's implemented is not a mandatory tool. It is not required by anyone to use it. If students have a concern about using Proctorio, if it comes to a security question or accessibility question, we definitely will work with the vendor to make sure that the security compliance requirements are addressed and accessibility issues are addressed. However, if students have a concern, they can work with their faculty to request an alternative assessment. It's not being used by every faculty as of yet, but it is a tool that's available, and it's strictly up to the faculty's choice, not only using the product, also selecting specific features, on the product. Do they want to do recording? Do they want to do, scanning the room? Do they want to do audio recording? That's a setting that the faculty would choose to implement. And if there are questions that can be addressed, hopefully with the faculty.
Great, thank you. So our next question is there a way to grade an assignment with notes, but not publish the grade until one is done grading all student assignments? It seems that when I grade one item, it is automatically published, and there may be a week before I complete grading for everyone if the assignment is detailed in nature.
Yes, that's a great question and something I see often. When you're grading, you have the ability to hide grades just by, if you're in SpeedGrader or even in the gradebook, you can click this little eyeball icon and choose hide grades. And then this, while grades for this assignment are hitting, students will not receive new notifications or be able to see their grade change notification, any submission comments, curving assignments, or score change notifications. So you can go ahead and hide it. And once you're done grading everything, you would just click that little eyeball again and post grades. And you could do this in SpeedGrader, or you can do this in the gradebook. So if I went back to my gradebook, you could see now that anything that's hidden from students has that little eyeball crossed out. And when I'm ready for it to post, I would just click those three dots and post grades. And then once it's done grading, students will see everything once I post those grades.
All right, wonderful, thank you. All right, an anonymous attendee asks a question on class attendance. We house the course materials at Canvas and hold live classes on Zoom. Can we get the class attendance for Zoom sessions via Canvas? If so, how?
It's a good question. So I don't have Zoom in my accounts because it is a third-party tool coming in. However, I believe you can if you go to your Zoom navigation bar and you choose past. Was it past sessions? I think it says on the top, and you might show reports on the side. If you click on reports, it should show who was in that Zoom session. I believe this is the case, but since Zoom is a third-party tool in Canvas, I'm not sure if that is 100% true. Maybe somebody can confirm that, but if you look in there, you should have that option to see reports.
To add to that, at Cal State Fullerton, we're trying to pilot a classroom assistant application that takes attendance automatically when class is conducted over Zoom. It is being tested right now. When the testing is completed, it will be released to the campus general availability.
All right, thank you. All right, I believe the next question we're going to answer in the text, but just so that we can let people know, it says, is the Canvas hack fixed now so students can't get 100% on quizzes and exams by pressing some key codes, then lines of code appear with the answers? Is it encrypted better now with 2048 encryption now? Because my classmates told me about the hack backdoor because they're computer engineering majors.
Oh, I've not heard about that, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, and we're going to recommend that that person reaches out to our LMS admin team.
Correct.
And to have that ticket looked into so that we can kind of research it more and find out more about it.
Yeah, and I'll ask my team if they know anything about anything else, and I'll get back to you.
Sure. All right. So our next anonymous question is, Proctorio CEO Mike Olson is in record as saying, it's hilarious, students pretending to care where their data goes. Whether they're cheating or not, I don't really care. But then they go out and just say things. They don't do any research, they just make things up, and then it gets amplified, and that's been very upsetting over the last couple of months. Does Proctorio really think that students don't care about where their data goes?
Look, I totally appreciate the question put here. I don't honestly know if I'm the correct person to totally address this. I mean, I would be happy to connect you with the appropriate team at Proctorio. But honestly, I can appreciate the concerns there. Student focus is a big part of our conversations internally. And, again, we're a tool that can be used, but we're not a requirement for anybody. And so I totally, completely, appreciate these concerns, but, I don't know if I'd be the correct person to address some of these things specifically, but I'd be happy to connect you with the team that would be appropriate. Absolutely.
All right, thank you. Yeah, there's a couple other questions in the chat that are concerns about the peer-reviewed that testing that was done, and that there is a question about an ed tech specialist speaking out about remote testing software, and also lawsuits that are involved with that. So I think there's just some general concerns about those. So I don't know if you can speak to those.
Yeah, and again, I mean, I'm happy to connect anyone, to our marketing team to address these very specifically. We have some, there's a lot of conversations in the marketplace about proctoring in general, and we have to, act as a company, and I can, connect that in with the appropriate teams. But for purposes of this conversation, I probably wouldn't be the best one to address some of these things. But I totally appreciate the concerns, and I'm happy to address, each of those items specifically with the correct team.
Okay, thank you very much. And it looks like we've gone through all the questions that are in the Q&A. If you have any additional questions, we've got a few minutes left. We've got about 5 minutes or so. So feel free to put them in the Q&A and we can go ahead and answer them. And then please do check our chat as well, because we have been putting some resources there for additional things like taking attendance in Zoom and running reports like that. And I don't know, maybe Josh and Kristin, is there somewhere else that people can go for more information? Such as like I know there's a Proctorio support page, as well as Canvas support is built into Canvas, correct?
Yeah, from the Proctorio side, one of the things I focus on a lot here, but we are making a lot of adjustments to our websites to try and be more student focused and try and explain things in a way that's geared towards test takers, and that goes with our support page as well. We're trying to put a bunch of information and additional ways for students to get to support. So I think those are the best resources sort of available immediately for everyone from the Proctorio side.
In Canvas, we if you're on Canvas, on that global navigation, the very bottom, that help button, the first thing that pops up is a little panda with a map saying search the Canvas guides, and I call that the Google of Canvas. anything you're looking for on Canvas pops up there. It's extremely helpful. As a Canvas employee, I even use them to dig a little bit deeper. It also connects to the community who has other people and professors and teachers across the world posting just ideas that they use with Canvas, and discussions that other teachers will and professors will respond to. So those Canvas guides are extremely supportive. You also have that Canvas support hotline in that help menu, which is extremely helpful if you're running into some issues, that you can call that number and somebody from Canvas will be there to support you on the other end.
Wonderful, thank you. And then we do have one last question here. It looks like, does Proctorio have robust studies showing that it significantly curbs cheating?
So we don't have any published studies yet. That is something that our marketing team is working with a lot of our partner institutions to try to put together exactly these types of things. But just to address, like, the way we talk about it internally is, the goal is not necessarily catching cheating, even though that sort of seems like what we're doing. It's really about, ensuring academic integrity, but just leveling the playing field for those that are acting academically honest. And so that's really the sort of goal, and putting together these types of studies are totally interesting and things that we're working on internally, but nothing to report back. But we are working closely with a lot of our other partners that have been using the product for years and trying to see what kind of data we can pull from that, just because it is good to know and good to share. And so yeah, I totally understand that.
All right, well, thank you very much. I think we did have one last question. Somebody was asking if, Kristin, you could talk about the question banks.
Yes. So question banks in Canvas can be created from existing, or you can create new questions. If I share my screen again really quickly. If I go to my quizzes tab of my course, I can click the 3 dots right next to plus quiz. And when I click that, it has the option to manage question banks. I can create new question banks based on a specific topic, test that I'm creating, and then from that bank I could easily just pull it into quizzes. So if you're creating maybe at the end of the year a cumulative exam, it's easy to pull in these question banks and just pull specific questions that you've already created in your other quizzes, so you're not recreating these questions again and again. So in here I can add a question bank, give it a name, so maybe I'll do a topic or a module or something to that effect. I can go ahead and add my questions into here. So I can move over multiple questions, maybe questions I've already created, questions from other question banks. I can add in new questions that go into there, and I can just create those new questions, align some outcomes to it. If I add in those new questions, I can move and copy from another bank. I can move from one bank to another, but creating these banks are really helpful when you're creating those cumulative tests and just keeping all of your question types in one place. So it's a really cool feature that's kind of hidden inside of Canvas, but really, really helpful. And you can learn way more about them too in those Canvas guides that are found in this help button right here.
All right, wonderful. Okay. So it looks like we have one last quick question here. It says, I'm a fully employed business professional that's currently using the same device at work and school. Using Proctorio would put me at risk for violating privacy standards I have to adhere to by federal law in my work. If I had a class that required Proctorio, I would absolutely drop the class. I appreciate this rep can't answer the larger conceptual questions regarding this software, but I urge him and everyone else to look at the news articles and studies regarding the use of Proctorio.
I mean, you're absolutely right. I can't address the full requirements of the where you're employed and what things might entail. I mean, security and privacy is a big sort of it's a big core of how our company operates, and we have gone through great lengths to secure data and use the software and to ensure privacy, especially on the student and instructor side. And so, while I can address the specific things that might violate of having just an extension on a work computer, I wouldn't know how to address that specifically. But I totally understand those concerns, and if there are requirements at your employment that wouldn't allow something like Proctorio to work, I can completely understand that, but I can't specifically address that.
All right, thank you very much. All right, so we're coming to the end here. So thank you very much to Josh and to Kristin and to everyone for attending, and thank you for your questions. And hopefully we will see you at some of our other sessions today, including our vendor booth that will be at 12:30. And so thank you again and have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.